Diane Schofield. Her first camera was a Kodak Brownie. She progressed to an automated Pentax years later. She took a photography course as part of her diploma in teaching at TAFE and studied darkroom techniques as part of that course, and has since used photography and video in her teaching. She joined Belmont 16's photography club after retirement and did the New South Wales FCC judging course and has since acted as mentor for new judges in her area. She has only just started entering international competitions and has been surprised to win some gold medals. Gongs do not mean much to her. She is happiest taking images in peace and quiet, preferably without snakes, spiders and storms. Her passion is nature, especially birds. Much to her husband Colin's disgust, her favourite setting on the camera was PSP, point, shoot and pray. Beautiful dragonfly. The insect is well placed in the image. The exposure is good. There is good definition in the body of the insect. The depth of field is important in macro photography. Unfortunately, there is much in the insect that is soft. No award. Brush strokes of the ocean. The image is an unusual abstract. It looks as though the photographer has panned on a slower shutter speed to gain the effect. Although the colours are effective, the large band of white is distracting. No award. Splash 111. The image is well composed, the lighting is good, and I love the colours. The reflection gives it balance. I regret the image is too small for me to see the details, so I have given it no award, so that the author may resize and resubmit. I think that the image has potential. No award. Treasures. I commend the author for attempting to do something that is a little different. You have a good story of a little person playing with their treasures and perhaps dreaming of the time when they first saw them. With images, simplicity is the key to success. All that was needed in this image was the little one with just the starfish and the reflection, making sure that everything is in focus. No award. Whistling kite. I have not awarded this image because I would like the author to resubmit in another competition. You have all the elements in it for an award winner. The composition is good, it is a simple image, the eye is in focus, and details in the bird are good. I downloaded this image and made it pop. In Camera Raw, hit Auto, then use the highlight slider and the white slider to tone down the whites. While you are still in Camera Raw, use the brush to slightly lighten the brown area in the bird's head and in the belly, near the feet. Open in Photoshop, grab the sponge and do 2 clicks on the bird's eye. A cold day at the beach. The image is well composed. It has lots of interesting textures in it. The blue gives the effect of coldness. Adding a touch of yellow and red in the end processing would enhance the rocks and sand textures and cut back a little on the blue. An acceptance. Colour splash. I commend you for attempting this form of photography. I like the contrast between the blue and red. The blue background gives a good setting for the splash pattern. The pattern shapes are interesting. I think that the image could have been brighter. The black lines at the bottom are distracting and are on an angle. An acceptance. Evening East Coast. The landscape has some very interesting lines in the water and sand, which have created wonderful shapes. There are also good textures in the vegetation. The sky is dramatic and the clouds give a 3D effect to the image. The vegetation in the foreground is soft and has let the image composition down. Perhaps you could have avoided these when composing the image. Your camera sensor also needs cleaning as dust spots can be seen in the sky. An acceptance. Evening out walking. The image has been well composed. It has a good story, all about the dog. Night shots are difficult. They either require the use of a tripod or high ISO and a very steady hand. The face of the dog is really good and well focused. The chain on the neck and the rest of the body are soft. The highlights in the background are distracting and could be removed in end processing. And acceptance. Flower in a bubble. I have a problem with the size of this image. It is difficult to see its detail. I like the idea behind the composition. The various shades of pink are effective. The background is also effective, though I think it overpowers the subject. And acceptance. Highlander and his mates. The image has a good story. It is well composed and has a good depth of field. The tan-coloured Highlander has a good exposure and detail. The black colour of Mum and Bub has been a problem, as they do not have the same detail as the tan animal. The background is good. I would tone down the pale coloured tree trunks and the track. And acceptance. Late autumn. The image is well composed and I like its simplicity. The bright colours immediately grab the eye. The background sets the subject off well. The harsh light has created some deep shadows in the leaves. Some of the leaves are soft. And acceptance. Miss Ivy. Miss Ivy is a real cutie. The image has been well composed. Our Belle looks as though she was on the run, so needs that space around her. The light has not been kind, so exposure could have been better. The feet have also been cut. For a personal record, it is great that she has been captured for family and friends to enjoy for years to come. It grieves me to think about image opportunities lost, or social media images lost in the Ethernet. And acceptance. Mount Roland in sunshine. The image has good composition. It has captured the wildness of the area. The lighting conditions have posed a problem for the photographer, as the mountains are in full light and the large area at the bottom is in shade. What the image needs is for the top darkened and the bottom area to be lightened. This may easily be achieved by using the linear gradient tool in Camera Raw or Lightroom. And acceptance. Stanley Sunset. I like the angle in which this image was taken. The rocks take the eye straight through to the nut. There is good detail in the rocks and moss. I would have liked more space above the nut, and I would have liked the image to be lightened and more contrast added. And acceptance. Sweet Treat. The image has good composition. The background sets off the subject. I like the square format. I would have liked to have seen better definition in the falling sugar and the strawberry. I also think that using less sugar would produce a better result. And acceptance. Watching you, watching me. This would be a great image for the cattleman to keep a record of his animals. They look very healthy and contented. There is a lot of variation in the lighting, indicating the difficulty in capturing the animals. The other problem is the contrasting light and dark shades of the hides. You could try taking them again in even lighting, not a harsh lighting condition. Also watch the points of focus. And acceptance. Dianella and Webb. You have captured the flower well. There is excellent detail in it, including the fluorescence of the petals. The depth of field is good. The flower has been taken on a good angle. I suggest that the right-hand side be cropped nearly to the outside buds. The background could be lightened a little to bring more detail in the web. Highly commended. Let's try Fly a Kite. This image has a good story. The image holds the viewer's attention. You could strengthen the story by cropping. On the left-hand side, crop up to the second tree trunk. Crop in from the right-hand side, leaving some space at the side of the girl. Finally, crop off a little from the top and the bottom. The exposure is good. Highly commended. Light painting glass ball. This is an eye-catching, well-composed abstract. The background is excellent. The image has good repetitive shapes. The colours are a knockout. Highly commended. Seen Happier Days. The image does tell a good story of days gone by and a current renovator's delight. It certainly would have been a riot of colour in its heyday. I think that the image could have been cropped from the left-hand side up to the second shed. This would place more emphasis on the house. I would also brighten the image. Highly commended. Spring growth. The image is well composed, it has great detail and there are no distractions. The background sets off the subject. I would crop a little off the top and I would brighten it. Highly commended. After the rain. The contrasts in light and dark areas and textures between water froth and vegetation gives this image a lot of interesting areas for the viewer to ponder over. I question the need for a slow shutter speed. The falls are good, but the water entering the foam is distracting. The exposure has been handled well. A merit. Autumn. Great composition. I like the repetitive curves throughout the image. The image is balanced. The viewer's eye is encouraged to look around before entering the archway through the back garden. Exposure is good. It looks as though it was taken on a dull day. A merit. Clathris archeri. Good composition. The image is colourful and documents the fungi. There is only one part of the image which is not in focus, and that is the throat of the fungi. The rest of the detail is excellent. I anticipate that you did not enjoy its perfume when you captured the shot. Merit. Dinner time. You did well to catch the spoonbills in action. The image is well composed. The background is a great setting for the birds, and I like the partial reflection. The lighting and detail on the adult bird are good. The young one has lost detail in the top area of its body and wing. To some extent, this may have been retrieved by adjusting the white and the highlights. A merit. Dip falls. The waterfall has wonderful textures. They immediately grab the eye. The composition is good. The circular shape is unusual and interesting. The slow shutter speed gives the water a nice contrast to the rock wall behind it. Try darkening the land area in the background a little. A merit. Honeymoon Bay. This is a beautiful sunset. The exposure is good. There are good details in the image. I like the long exposure to bring softness to the water and add contrast to the solid rock formations. I would crop in a little from the right-hand side to the tip of the tree-lined land. This would eliminate the top of the rock in the foreground. A merit. Meeting place, Chambers Gorge, South Australia. A well-composed landscape. It has nice detail and I like the dramatic sky. What it needs is contrast. Try it in Photoshop. Use the auto contrast and see the difference. Merit. Mount Kate House. The image has an excellent composition. It has good detail and it tells a story. I find this quite a dark image and feel that it could be improved by adjusting the exposure in end processing. A merit. The stick. Well seen. It is a handsome specimen. The lighting and composition are good. The insect is in perfect focus. The only thing I would do would be to straighten the vertical line of the fence. A merit. Time and tide. This is a feast of textures. The composition is good. I love all of the shapes and textures. The lighting is good and there is a good depth of field. I would adjust the shadows to brighten the image and tone down the highlights. I would gently adjust the red level. A merit. Upper Quail Falls. This is a beautifully crafted image. Everything is spot on. I would strengthen the falls by cropping the bottom up to the top rock in the foreground. This would create a square image minus the heaviness of the rocks in the bottom. A merit. West MacDonnell Range, Larapinta Trail. This was a window of opportunity. The way the distance scene is framed is excellent. Initially I was caught by the unusual frame, but my eyes went straight through to the beautifully lit scene. I don't think that you require all of the rock frame. I would crop a little from the left-hand side. I would also crop in from the right-hand side up to the beginning of the patch of sunlight. Well seen. A merit. Crab lunch. This is a wonderful capture of the bird. It is sharp and its eye is in focus. Even its catch is in focus. The exposure is good and the muted background is excellent. What I would recommend is to crop. Crop from the right-hand side into the fork of the trunk branch. Also crop a little from the left-hand side. This would create a square image and would ensure the viewer's attention remains on the bird. Honours. Fantail cuckoo. Congratulations. This is a beautiful image. The only thing I would do would be to crop from the left hand to those orangey tones in the background. The image has it all. Simplicity, great lighting, muted background, total subject included, great detail, good exposure, no grain, no over-sharpening, no saturation. And honours. Mac and Grace, Stormy Afternoon. The image has great lighting and it tells a good story. A small amount of the foreground is soft, but I can live with that. There is good definition in both of the subjects and I like the simplicity of the image. And it has a good background. I would crop in from the left and right hand sides as I don't think that this space is required. Honours. Sunrise Fleet. This is a simple, well-composed image. It has good detail and I love the layers of the colour. The reflections give it balance. Honours. Treasured Memory. This tells a wonderful story. I like the colours you have used to blend mono with colour. I like the flowers which carry through the theme of age. I also like the personal touch of aged jewellery in the bowl. Well done. Honours. Waldheim Stream. This is a well-constructed image which emanates a feeling of peace and beauty. The composition is good. My eye is allowed to meander through it. I love the filtered light and the contrast between light and dark and softness and hardness. A gorgeous image. Honours. Cooling Off. A nicely framed image that has been underexposed. This has resulted in a loss of detail in the figures, especially the faces. I would also like to have seen some detail in the background. The other thing I would do is to crop the bottom, removing the paddle boards, giving a strong leading line. No award. The Painter. This image has been seriously underexposed, leading to a loss of detail. I like the position of the statue in the frame, but when taking images like this, you must remember it is someone else's artwork, and if you wish to use it, you need to add something of yourself in the figure, etc. No award. Bushhaven. A very nice outlook from the veranda, but shooting directly into the sun creates all sorts of problems for the camera's sensor. Here the bulk of the image is underexposed and a great deal of detail in the dark areas has been lost. The cropping is fine and I like the leading lines created by the floorboards. And acceptance. Father and Son number 2. This image tells a nice story. It has a good dynamic range, it is simple, and the background, though not intrusive, could have been difficult to place the hands in a setting place. The image has good detail. Watch halos when processing or using studio lighting. And acceptance. Amazing Zebra Stripes. An interesting take on a safari experience. The image is well exposed, the depth of field is good. You might consider cropping some grassland from the left, taking the animal away from the centre of the frame. Also, you might consider lightening the neck, ear and mane. Highly commended. Bike Envy. A very interesting use of reflections. There has been some interesting use of blur tool to give an impression of speed. I find the large area of black on the right overpowering and needs to be reduced. I find the white spots on the upper right distracting. Highly commended. High-rise garden. A well-exposed image with a good dynamic range. The image is sharp with a good depth of field. I feel you could have enhanced the clouds in the sky and corrected the perspective warp in post-processing. Highly commended. Huon River. A nice tranquil scene. The image has good depth of field and is sharp throughout. The image has been underexposed, leading to poor dynamic range, where there is no true whites and little detail in the blacks. I like the clouds in the sky. The half boat on the right is not essential and could be easily cropped. Highly commended. My Dinner. A very good story associated with this image. The image has been underexposed, leading to a loss of detail. I like the positioning of the bird in the frame, but I would like to see about half the negative space on the right cropped. Highly commended. Old tree. You have done quite well to capture this image as the lighting conditions are harsh and difficult. The image is sharp and has a good depth of field. The image could be lightened a little with a little more contrast and some detail put into the really dark areas. This could all be done in post-processing. I think the cropping is good. Highly commended. Railway graveyard. A nice image that has been seen. It has a good depth of field and has been well exposed, although I would have lightened some of the shadow areas post-processing. The crop is good, but it might have been nice to see below the buffers. Highly commended. Tamar River Walk. A nice, well-seen image with excellent leading lines. There is nice detail in the sky. The image is sharp with a good depth of field. I think the image would be stronger if the foreground were cropped from the bottom nearly to the first light pole, making it a panoramic image. Highly commended. The Highlander. The backlighting has not been very kind to the author. It has left the face and background in shadow while other areas are in bright sun. The face and body are sharp and well exposed, and the positioning of the animal is good. Highly commended. The Redwood Forest. A nice, well-exposed image. I like the good leading lines that draw the eye into the picture. There is a good dynamic range. The two prominent trunks in the foreground are soft. I feel that you could crop 3/4 of each one to eliminate most of the problem and still have a very nice square image. Highly commended. Waiting for the Tide. A nice, clean, sharp image with good detail. I think it would benefit from a little more contrast post-processing. I think the whole story is in the middle of the image, and I would crop well past the post on the right-hand side and just inside the post on the left. I always ask myself, is there any part of the image that does not add to the story? And then I try to crop. Highly commended. Watching and ready. A friend indeed. The image has been very well caught with the eye sharp and clear. The backlighting works well, but I would have liked some lighting of the shadows under the nose. The far ear is a little soft. I like the positioning of the animal on the left, but I would crop about half the negative space on the right. Highly commended. Brooklyn Bridge in winter. A nice sharp image with a good dynamic range. It has good leading lines and depth of field. I think you would have a stronger image if you cropped the bottom to the first large wire and cropped at least half the sky. This would leave a square image and bring the people closer to the viewer. A merit. Rhino. A nice image well exposed with a good depth of field. The image is sharp and the dynamic range is good. The animal is well positioned in the frame and has been well cropped. A merit. Under construction. An excellent image with a good depth of field and exposure. The dynamic range is good and it has been well cropped. Merit. Bower House. A beautiful high-key approach to this mono image. There is great detail and clarity throughout the image. The dynamic range and depth of field is excellent. There is half of a lamppost on the right-hand side that I think should be cropped and cloned out. Honours. Cape Decision Lighthouse. A well-captured image with a good dynamic range. There is good sharp detail throughout. The image has been well cropped, although you might have cropped a little off the top and included some of the seashore. Honours. Last game of the day. A good story with great action. The side lighting has given an extra dimension to the image. The image is sharp, well exposed, with a good dynamic range. The featureless background adds to the story. The horses are well positioned in the frame with lots of space to move into. One minor thing I find distracting is the white line adjacent to the second horse, which needs to be cloned out. I would also like to have seen a little ground under the hoof of the leading horse. And honours. The drummer. A great image, beautifully captured. It is sharp, well exposed with an excellent dynamic range. The background is unobtrusive and the crop is good. Honours. The man. An excellent portrait, well lit, with good exposure, detail and depth of field. The background is muted with no distractions. Honours. Throw-in. A great story with action well captured. The image is sharp, well exposed, with a good dynamic range. The image has been well cropped. The arm with the ball is soft, but this does not matter. The horses on the right could have been cloned out. A nitpick. Honours.